So coming from this place, and we all come from this place, every morning we begin coming from this place with a profound understanding that we are held in the mystery that we call God, and that we all belong in this mystery. And that we are constantly being invited to see how that works out and to live in the wonder of it. And it seems to me that this little, what we used to call in theology school, pericope, is meant to provide the constant challenge with which we live, and that is that forgetting to trust. All right? So the biggest invitation is just to trust. Not to trust that we won't die of cancer or that we won't be hit by a bus or all of those things. But trusting at a deep, deep level that we have been gifted this place in the cosmos, and we have been gifted with gifts to live out of this place that are to serve one another and the creation itself. And then on the other side is this adversary that sits within each of us that goes, not sure you can trust that. No. I've got better plans. I think come on over here, and I think if you maybe depend on this role in your community, or this job at work, or making sure you get this salary, or maybe there's this piece of furniture that's going to make you feel on top of the world, and won't that feel great? I mean, you choose the words of your adversary. I suspect you have a very personal adversary, don't we all? It's all just, can you really trust that you have a place here and a purpose here? And that you are intended to be a blessing to the rest of the cosmos. So there you are, I think. We spend most of our time in those two places, trusting, not trusting. And I suspect you all have your own really interesting rabbit hole story of where you went when you decided that you couldn't trust. And I suspect you have an equally profound story of when you found yourself in that place and you deeply knew that you knew that you knew that you were being held in the mystery that we call God. And what's interesting, I might add, is that very often when we find ourselves in places of profound suffering, at a deathbed, with a diagnosis, when we hit a wall, that the default to belonging is almost easier than when we find ourselves at the top of the world. In Welsh, the ordinary word for universe, I guess this should have been point number 1. Oh well. The ordinary word for universe is bydysod, which means that which is baptized. Right, that should have been the first point. The universe, that which has been baptized. And that means that all that has come into being, every particle of matter, every creature, every person, every star and planet, has been baptized into the mystery we call God. What a beautiful mystical way of thinking about life and God. Wouldn't it be remarkable if we could step our feet into every one of our days confident that that was true? So here's the third thing. I think that all spiritual practices have within them sacred practices. And ultimately, the point of every sacred practice is just to remember who we are. That's all. So that we find ourselves in worship, or we find ourselves in the labyrinth, or we find ourselves on the dock of a bay, or we find ourselves fishing, or we find ourselves sitting under a tree and we go, oh, I know. I remember. That regardless of what is taking place around us, death and disaster and destruction and apocalypse, that there is a place of sanctuary and belonging and safety just in this time and space. And so when I think about the offices of the abbeys within the Middle Ages, singing 8 times a day, including 3 in the morning, I got it yesterday. I think for the first time I got it. Oh, that would be about right, because, every 3 hours we would need to have a reminder that we are one. We would need to have a reminder that we are son and daughter of God. We would need to have a reminder that we are blessing. So I'm going to suggest, as we make our way through this season, where we're wrestling with our identity, that the only time we get it wrong is when we forget who we are. And one of the ways I think that we kind of reconnect with what is true is we sing, or we chant, or we hum, or we whistle, and suddenly we find ourselves in that universe of the baptized, which is our home. So miserere, Latin for forgive me, for those times and places and days and decisions when I forget, when we forget that we are the universe of the baptized, born to bless and to be blessed.